What's up everyone, this is the one, and today I'm going to be talking about high tiers. Now, high tiers contain a lot of the interesting weapons in the game. A lot of weapons that could just do certain things really well, but not everything well. So it can't do enough to be used pretty much everywhere, but it could be used enough to where it could see a lot of use in general. So these contain a lot of interesting weapons. Let's start with the lower end. So the Neo Splash is an interesting one on this tier list. It's actually really good in turf, but because turf isn't counted in this, I have to place it lower than usual. It's still an okay niche for splat zones, but overall the suction rush still does hold it back. The main weapon is solid and burst bombs work really well with it, but suction rush just isn't too valuable, especially outside of zones. This weapon sees pretty much no use at all. Light tetras are just in the case where you could use it on like 3 maps, but why ever use it when dark tetras exist? So it really just doesn't have any reason to be used too much, but it's still an exceptionally strong main weapon overall, and the special can work on a few Rainmaker maps for quick shield pops. Next up are the Igloo Gus. Now the Igloo Gus are in an interesting position of having one of the best kits in the game. However, the main weapon doesn't really synergize with that kit at all. It can't really spam armor because the main weapon can't paint, and it doesn't really have much help for aggression, as it doesn't have, say, a wall. Armor is still nice, but Gluga just isn't really the best supportive weapon with its lackluster paint. If it had better paint, this would totally be a very strong weapon, but currently it doesn't have the paint to succeed. The Cherry H tree is an interesting one. While the main weapon and sub-weapon are both pretty good and synergize with each other well, giving it a solid niche, Bubble's overall limited extremely. While it's still nice on a few maps such as Arrow on a Mall, where it's super thin and very easy to go just camp in the close with your wall, it's overall just not really the best niche, and even then Tensa could do that same thing but better, so it's just an interesting spot. While it could see some use, Bubbles overall super weigh this weapon down. Kimmy is overall really nice as well, but like Zimmy, doesn't have a good enough kit to compete too much. Hammer is still nice and Mist can trap people, but Mist really isn't the best pokeable sub to help it in combat as much, and Hammer still doesn't synergize as well with the main weapon. Ballpoint is a very strong main weapon, granted yes, but the kit doesn't really work for it at all. Ballpoint Nova is much higher because it has an actual kit. Ballpoint on its own is still, like Tetra, still very strong enough to be placed in this tier despite a horrible kit. Custom Hydra Splatling is a strong main weapon that actually was higher earlier, but due to some recent points for special nerfs, its lackluster kit just has been put even worse. Armor is more of a midline special than a backline, but now 200 points for special on a pretty lackluster painting weapon just makes it really difficult for it to use its armor effectively. So it's just an interesting spot. Overall, it's still really slow as a backline and easy to punish when backlines are getting more mobile. So it doesn't work too well. Hopefully Hydra like Heavy and Mini before it can get some mobility buffs and see some use, and maybe 190p. Bamboo is another interesting spot. Since its kits have gotten significantly better since Mach 3 came out and Mach 1 now has a good special since missiles aren't bad, it's actually risen quite significantly. It's still seen to mostly niche use, which is why it's in harder up, but the main weapon is still incredibly strong, and now is starting to get the time to shine. Firefin and E-Liter are both zones niche chargers. They're really good on that mode, but not really much else, though E-Liter could be argued for Rainmaker and tower control on Moray towers. Overall, they're still rather strong main weapons, but the kit's limited to only one mode, which while on a zones tier list could be higher, on all modes is stuck here. Vanilla Slosher is a niche slosher build. Like most of the weapons in A-, it's great on a few mapping modes. In this case, just a few maps where Slosher is nice and missiles are nice, such as Tower Control Mako Mart. Could see more use. Section Bomb combo is nice. However, Soda Slasher coming out, some of the use of that has been, well, just not really used too much. Now you may be questioning why Machine is so low. Well, I guess not too low, it isn't high tier. But the thing to remember is that all of Machine's kits have problems. These two either have a special that doesn't work with it or a sub that doesn't work with it. So it just is kind of lacking in general. Bomb Rush actually works kind of nice with Machine. It's one of the few weapons that actually works well with it, but it's still Bomb Rush. But anyway, the machines are still pretty nice overall. Even with the main weapon receiving some nerfs, 2-sub Zinc Saber main gives you pretty nice efficiency, and overall it's still a pretty strong choice. It's just limited by its kits, allowing other weapons to do its job better. In A tier is the Kensa shot. Now A tier weapons are slightly better than A-, being able to be used just a few more places, and that's mainly what puts them above. Kensa shot, for example, is used mainly where Mini can't be used. On weapons such as Blackbelly Skate Park, it could be a popular choice. It's a good missile option, and overall is pretty nice in general, just with a nice kit overall and a strong weapon of the splatter shot. We could see it seeing some more use, who knows. Spar Shell could be seeing some buffs overall, depending on how shooters going forward. Spar Shell Pro is a strong main weapon with main power up without its not, and rain is great for it, but point sensor just holds it back. That's really all there is to say. L3 and KL3 are both good for their special spam with their strong specials, and both of them have pretty strong subs, but the main weapon still holds it back. It's exceptional at painting, but overall lacks in a bunch of factors. Its damage is inconsistent and has RNG, and its mobility and range are just kind of meh. We'll see how they go with time, but overall I'm placing them here, due to them having solid niche potential. H3D overall just got way farther behind K Undercover, with the dropping off of armor along with 220 points for special. Maybe you could see more use if armor sees a bit more of a use, or if Kensa Undercover is nerfed, but right now it's hard to see it seeing too much more use. Dualies are an exceptionally strong main weapon. Both hero dualies and end parry have strong kits for it, but overall still are lacking. Burst bombs and missiles do work with it, but not exceptionally well, and curling bomb is nice, inkjet is still lacking. Still, these see quite a few uses on different maps, such as Piranha Pit for end parry, and Black Belly for hero dually, so we'll see where they go. Igloo Gus is another niche weapon, mainly for thinner maps such as Port Mackerel or Camp Triggerfish, where the wall is very useful. Glooga has a much better kit here, allowing it to wall out opponents and being able to use the baller to help keep its position. Both the range and the Grim range have great kits. Both of them are better in certain situations than others, such as Grim's ability to deal with armor better and Range Blaster's ability to deal with baller better. But both are kind of in an odd spot. They push Blaster because of its sheer potential and players really dedicating themselves to the weapon, so I could even see these going higher. But overall, being a Blaster still leaves a lot of struggles against weapons that have high mobility or weapons with armored specials, such as Booyah Bomb or Baller. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. If the weapon keeps getting pushed, I could see this rising a tier. Soda Slosher is an amazing main weapon with an amazing sub to combo. Burst Bomb Launcher is normally a horrible special, but as you're going to see with another weapon I'm going to be talking about, it actually makes the special significantly better due to the sub and main weapon it's paired with. It's perfectly suited to combo with the Slosher to give you kind of almost invincible-like feeling of just being able to quickly combo anyone else to death with the bombs. So it could be pretty useful overall just by the burst and slosh combo, but overall the lack of an actual special still does hold it back. Kensa Machine is a similar thing with Soda Slosher. While the main and sub are good, the lack of an actual special still holds it back. Explosher is an interesting weapon here. Bubbles don't work for it too well because it's too slow, but the main weapon is still strong. Sprinkler plus the main weapon is great for zones, but again, this weapon is still very held back by bubbles. It just doesn't pop them well enough, and for a weapon that's become super gear dependent on Inksaver main, swim speed, and of course quick super jump, it's very hard to squeeze in special power up, even with the buffs, to really fit it. On top of that, it just doesn't control bubbles very well. As you'll see with the higher bubble weapons on this list, being able to control bubbles very well is very important. Next up we get to A+. Now these are the weapons that really have top tier potential. All the other weapons I've talked about are more niche for a few maps, but these are weapons I'm going to talk about where you can use on an actual majority of the maps and do well. These are because these weapons truly have potential while still being amazingly solid in their own right. First up is the custom Jet Squelcher. Burst Bombs and Stingray is an amazing kit with a backline, and Jet offers a lot of mobility and extra aggressive options for those who can utilize its aim. Its accuracy, shot velocity, along with having solid mobility and good range, an amazing kit, give it actually really nice options. It's actually one of the rare weapons to have 180p Stingray as well, which makes up for Jet's lackluster paint. It's overall a really nice backline, and a good alternative for shorter maps if you can get around Charger, or just in general. Next up are the Klappas. Now, I debated putting the clear dualies down a tier, but recently I've felt they've had a lot of potential that hasn't been used yet. While they seem kind of lacking, again, with Splashdown, Torpedo just kind of makes up for it. By throwing Torpedo and then popping Splashdown, you create an ultimatum to where they can't possibly shoot both down. This leaves a great option to where they'll most likely have to shoot the Torpedo to avoid getting hit by it, and the Splashdown will connect, giving them slight tick damage. On top of that, Dapple's actually having a sub-weapon to poke in neutral means it actually has something to do. And the last strength of it is its lack of gear dependency means it can run things other weapons can't as the front lines, such as a lot of QR and Ninja Squid swim speed up, which gives it a lot more options for getting in. This kind of feels like the roller of this patch, where it can be super sneaky and if it gets in, it can do a ton of damage. and it has a good poking sub for distance. We'll see how it goes with time, but I think this has a lot of potential. Still not the best dually, but pretty close. Kensa dualies are similar. With Selection Bomb and Baller, it has an amazing kit, and the main weapon is great. It's mainly fallen off due to the inability to compete with some of the top tiers. A lot of the top tiers have exceptional mobility without having to without having to comply with dodge rolls. Sorry, I choked a bit there. And overall, just struggles against some of the higher tiers such as Tenebrella, Brella, and Mini. But we'll see how it fares in the end. It still has a lot of potential with the dodge rolls as a whole, and Baller allows it to go in really well. Custom Dually Squelcher kind of has the rain potential taken out due to stronger rain weapons existing, but it's still really great for its insane mobility, insane paint, and now main power up allowing it to have consistent damage outputs and even 33.3, which is very nice for it. However, its RNG and long time to kill still hold it back from a top tier spot. It's still really good overall. Sorella Brella is just completely outclassed by the regular Brella. The kit kind of works for it, and on a few maps it could see use, but overall just not really too much. It's kind of more similar to the weapons in A tier, where it's more nice for a few maps. However, the main weapon of Brella is just so incredibly strong that I couldn't put this with A tier weapons. But I still don't think it's top tier because the kit just isn't very good for it. Mach 3 is similar to Mach 1, but with Fizzy Bomb being an essentially upgraded curling, and Bubbles being able to be controlled super well. Fizzy Bomb can pop them instantly, along with Bamboo's insane damage output allowing it to control it. Gear dependency is a problem, but Bamboo can actually fit all the gear it needs on a normal build, so it actually works out alright. Bamboo is still a strong weapon, and I think this could have top tier potential if it were to be pushed a bit further. But I don't know. Right now we don't have too many Bamboozler players, and Japanese Bamboozler players haven't done enough in tournament for me to place it higher. Last off, we got the Permanent Ink Brush. The Permanent Brush is an insane armor spammer that truly has potential, as Ink Brush is an insanely good main weapon, being able to completely shut down some matchups, especially in top tier. Sprinkler allows it to poke when it's not there and paint for armor even faster. If this thing gets behind you, it can paint up your entire base in seconds, and its record for getting armor with charge up is 3.75 seconds, which is insanely fast, faster than any other weapon in the game. Still, armor doesn't work with it as well as the Inkbrush Novus kit, which we'll talk about later in top tier, as it's not able to just completely stall around and annoy people as much because Baller isn't on this kit. Still, it's a much more supportive option, and on some maps where Ink Novu isn't as strong, it could totally see some use. Alright, well these were the high tiers. There's only a few weapons left, and if you can deduce them, you know what's top tier. But there's still 3 tiers for top tier, and it'll be interesting to discuss where things go. Once we get into top tier, things are going to get a bit different. These are going to be weapons that are good on over half the maps in the game and just flat out do their job better than any other weapon in pretty much every situation. We'll see how things go, and let me know what you think. This is the most interesting tier in my opinion. High tier sees a bunch of use, and overall, a lot of weapons could change positions within that tier or even going above to top tier, depending on how they're pushed. There's a lot of weapons with potential, such as the Bamboo and Range Blaster and Klappas, and a lot of weapons that could just see use overall. Some of these weapons could be buffs, but maybe not. Some of them might just need to be pushed in the right direction. We'll have to see where they go. But overall, this is the tier that I think is the most interesting to look at, because it sees the most potential weapons while still seeing tournament use and being clearly viable. We'll see what happens with top tiers next in the last episode of the tier list. I'll see you guys with that tomorrow.